High inflation, supply chain issues and a drop in demand for COVID-19 vaccines contributed to Aspen Pharmaceuticals' interim profits dropping by 15%. But the company's share price spiked today. Saad is the company's CEO, and he joins me now from Cape Town. Stephen, always great to chat to you. We had an extensive sit-down at the time when you were really ramping up for COVID vaccine production in South Africa, doing so much to try and make those life-saving vaccines available. Looking back over that period and the enormous effort you expended, was it a waste?
It was an enormous amount of effort, and it was incredibly stressful. I can tell you that I've been here for 25 years at Aspen, and that was the most stressful period I ever had within Aspen. Was it a waste? I would say it was commercially. It commercially didn't work out. It was from that point of view, it wasn't great, but definitely wasn't a waste in that we got about 250 million doses into Africa before anyone else supplied Africa. So we were a big supplier into Africa when there was no one else supplying. So from that point of view, it was a great contribution, but I can't tell you it was commercially very messy.
Does it set things up for the future? I know that we've also spoken in the past about this creating a platform for manufacturing and distributing vaccines for Africa, for future pandemics or for any other vaccine requirement. Is there something that you can take from it into the future?
It's an excellent point, and there really is. We have, and we announced it with our results, we've got big sterile sites in South Africa and Quebec, and we've also got in France. And it put us on the map as a world-class producer of vaccines. We were 7th or 8th in the queue to make for J&J. If you remember, they first went to the European and the US suppliers, then us, and we were first out the blocks and produced the most. So it was very well received globally, and what it has done, it's been a catalyst for many other transactions that we are now doing. So we've had to pivot quickly. I mean, you can certainly be very disappointed about what happened and hold everyone else responsible, but we have really made an effort to find alternatives, and we have. And I must say that having that publicity of what we did around COVID globally was very positive for Aspen. And also it forced regional manufacturers. Everyone said Africa can't make vaccines. Africa hasn't got a capability. And we demonstrated it could, and it gave Africa a voice at the table. So the big donor funds like Gavi, et cetera, are now insisting that we have local manufacture for African products, and Africa too is emboldened by what we've achieved. So it's been very positive in terms of growing growing awareness and forcing a change in thinking in terms of making vaccines on the continent.
So short-term disappointment and losses, but potential hope for the long term. So we've dealt with one aspect that contributed to your profit dip. Talk to me about the other factors.
So there were the two other really big factors for us in this period relative to the prior period. We have guided a lot of growth in the second half, but the two other big factors were we had a business in Russia that did a billion rand of sales. It doesn't do anything like that anymore. It's quite incredible what Russia, where Russia is spending its money. This is not a loss of market share, but we have a product that used to do 50,000 units a month there. It then went to 100,000 during COVID. It's now dropped to 7,000. So the money that was in healthcare has been diverted clearly to the war effort. And the second area is that we are got a large hospital-based portfolio of products, and China had a lockdown. As you know, during COVID, which meant people didn't come in and out the hospitals. So it's been quite a tricky global situation. People always say, hedge your risk, go global, etc. The reality for us is that, we are global, and we hit a lot of global headwinds. There were no real offsets here. But at the end of the day, the results were creditable. We've come out okay? We now dealt with all the uncertainties. Know we've got what's ahead of us, and we've got a very strong second half coming up in manufacture, which I think will really help drive our results. And hopefully we can come out with sort of an EBITDA in line with what we did the prior year, and that will be a fantastic achievement, given all the moving pieces that I've told you about.
So, of course, difficult global conditions, but also tough times at home, and the impact of load shedding. I mean, it's just felt far and wide. Talk to me like a big outfit like Aspen. Obviously, you've got your backups, as we do here at eMedia, but those backups cost a lot of money in keeping a factory running. Talk to me about the impact on your business.
You know, for us, we've got big machinery there, and we've got sensitive products that we make. So if you have load shedding during a batch and we're making vaccines or products, we end up having to throw away millions of rands of product. So we do have backup, we have generator backup, but that can't be a sustainable position. You know, our reaction to that is to say, well, we've got to learn from the past. And Eskom hasn't delivered in spite of promising over the years that there will be delivery. So we've really got to look at how we can manage this ourselves. We've come up with something very novel, and we expect to be off the grid really in the next 12 to 15 months, where we're going to actually take plastic, even plastic that's not recyclable, and we'll turn that into electricity. Hopefully it means that people are picking up packets the same way they pick up cans around the country, because there's value. But you know, having said all of that, even if we're off the grid and we're fine, the biggest risk for us is demand, because the people we sell to are people that go into pharmacies, go into retailers, and those people have load shedding, and they're losing customers and customer base, and that, of course, impacts us. We're starting to see quite a bit of it, Saad. We're starting to see, you know, we've got a lot of cheaper price, lower price medicines, you know, things like Helen and Dutch medicines and that, where we're starting to see the most impact at the lower levels of sort of our cheaper prices in consumer. And it really tells me that maybe the people that are really battling out there are the consumers on the breadline, in that they've got, you know, higher transport costs and higher food costs. And that inflation is really impacting them. And I think there's definitely some spin-off that we're seeing here. It's still early days to call a trend, but I can tell you it's something we are seeing.
That's very interesting, and it speaks to, of course, the general cost of living crunch that we are in. I just want to take you back to what you said. You're hoping to be off the grid in 12 to 15 months. Now, I know that you have a factory in Gqeberha, and it's very windy in Port Elizabeth, the windy city. I was expecting you to say that you'd be investing in a wind farm. There are a lot of wind farms in that area already. But you've just spoken to me about plastic, using that to make electricity. Please break that down for me.
Yeah, so it's something that Northern Europe used quite extensively. You know, the waste plastic's a massive problem around the world, as you know, and there's an ability effectively to heat that plastic, turns it into a liquid, it drives a turbine, and that in turn gives you the electricity. So we looked initially, Sally, was at gas. We were looking at gas. But what happened, and luckily, you know, from a point of view, at least we got an early warning that price can also run wildly, as it did during the Ukraine war. And so we've settled on this. It's a lot cheaper than the current Eskom pricing, and it gives us capacity to be able to find people to collect and bring this together. So it's, as I said, it's even stuff that's non-recyclable. So we really think it's going to be a very environmentally friendly solution. And yeah, you're right. You know, I haven't been I've been to Gqeberha many times, but I can't tell you that I've ever not had the wind blow there. But, I mean, maybe I'll have to speak to our engineers. I hope they haven't missed a trick there.
You mentioned that you're looking forward, despite today's disappointing results, you're looking forward to a better 6 months in terms of manufacturing. We did see your share price spiking somewhat today. Is that because of the forecast? Just talk to me about what happened with the share price today.
I think if you look at Aspen share price with COVID and with the utilization of our manufacturing, you know, if you look at Aspen, we spend so much money on our manufacturing platform, and we don't have a return that's an acceptable return at any level, financial level. And so when you invest a lot of money, you've got to start seeing, people have got to start saying, well, you know, are you going to get a return here? And I think what has come out is that, you know, given not just Serum, which I mentioned to you last time we spoke, to make vaccines for Africa, but there's another 4 multinationals who've now engaged in advanced agreements with Aspen to use our capacity. And that's very positive for investors, for Aspen, in that, as you know, we've built the big factory, we've got all the expenses in place, we still got to run the air conditioning systems and all of those expensive things. So we've got all of our expenses in place. And so any volume you bring is very incremental to profitability. And we're starting to see that happen. So I'm not an expert on the share price. I'm never good. If you told me it went down today, I would have said, I understand, or it went up. I'm not great on that. If you tell me it went up a lot, I would say it would. The logical reason to me would be that there's real hope that where we saw the share price soar when they thought COVID was going to fill our capacity, people are seeing an opportunity that something else will be there, and maybe there's a recognition globally, and maybe now by the investors, that we have a world-class capability that is going to be valuable to investors and also valuable to the people globally, and particularly my heart is obviously with the people in Africa.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good luck with getting off the grid in the next 12 to 15 months. It sounds exciting and very innovative, and best of luck for the coming months ahead. And thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Aspen CEO Stephen Saad there. Now let's